Deadbolt the doors and face your fears. The time for terror is upon us. Whether you're a year-round horror lover or planning a Halloween-themed binge, there's never been a more convenient time for enjoying cinematic spookiness in the comfort of your own lair. Across HBO Max, Hulu, Netflix, and more, countless masterfully macabre movies are streaming right now, and many of them are well worth your time and attention. Here are top picks from the greatest genre of all time. Bride of Frankenstein. Monster movies first rose off the slab in the late 20s and early 30s, establishing some of the most recognizable characters in pop culture history. Universal Studios cornered the market first with titles like Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy, The Invisible Man, The Wolfman, and Creature from the Black Lagoon. These frightful flicks would come to be known as the Universal Classic Monster movies, and they're all worth watching. But if you're just gonna pick one, The Bride of Frankenstein can't be beat. It's pure fun with horror icon Elsa Lanchester starring as the titular unbride-to-be. Psycho. Regarded by many as the irreplaceable master of suspense, Alfred Hitchcock's foremost horror work, Psycho, starring Anthony Perkins as the notorious Norman Bates, raised the bar for realistic terror, with Hitchcock mashing up real stories of real killers to create one legendary villain. This also marked one of the genre's more high-profile pivots away from the supernatural, as well as renewed enthusiasm for the evolving role of sound design in delivering scares. Night of the Living Dead. George A. Romero is widely regarded as the illustrious mastermind behind the zombie apocalypse subgenre. In just 96 minutes in Night of the Living Dead, Romero establishes both an exceptional cast of characters and a hellish obstacle attempting to block their escape. It's the blueprint that made every subsequent zombie story not only possible, but better. Not to mention, it's a plain old hoot. Dwayne Jones, appearing here as the first black lead of a major horror film, remains an all-time admirable hero with a tragic story sure to keep you up at night.
Rosemary, go back to bed. You know you're not supposed to be up and around.
Here's a soul-rattling double feature. Rosemary's Baby and The Exorcist marked the beginning of an especially rocky period for religious representation in horror. Though the satanic panic of the 80s had yet to set suburban heads spinning, the anguish and anxiety of the Vietnam War resulted in reportedly widespread questioning of faith and concern over the changing state of the so-called nuclear family. These movies approach evil and demonic forces from similar vantage points, relying heavily on iconography and body horror to bring on the nightmares. But the film's respective endings have also come to represent an optimistic-pessimistic dichotomy that's become a mainstay in horror analysis.
What have you done to its eyes?
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. For a slasher flick running only 83 minutes, director Tobe Hooper's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre has a remarkably long-lasting legacy. Though its initial reception was mixed to negative, with pearl-clutching critics mortified by its blood and brutality, Leatherface's maiden voyage established important elements of the then still-emerging slasher genre. Marilyn Burns as the film's final girl gives us one of the most memorable last scenes in horror history, while Gunnar Hansen as the cannibalistic killer shows us the pugnacious promise of mass murderers living in remote houses and weaponizing power tools.
You've seen all kinds of movies, but you've never seen anything like the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Don't let the jeweled corsets and chorus lines fool you. The Rocky Horror Picture Show is a scary flick at heart. Plus, it made it possible for generations of LGBTQ horror fans to find community at the movies. Yes, it's heavy on the laughs, dancing, and swimming pool orgies, but co-writer and director Jim Sharman's raunchy romp is just as heavy on the nuanced themes of identity and ostracism, with a heavy helping of ice pick murders and cannibalism to keep it fun. Halloween. Slasher villains are staples in horror, with their constant threat of return justifying countless reboots and sequels across decades. For our money, director John Carpenter's Halloween is the best Golden Age slasher out there. Not only was it among the first major franchises established, but it builds out the mystery of villain Michael Myers with excruciating precision. What's more, Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie Strode is an unimpeachable symbol of Scream Queen greatness. Scream. What director Wes Craven brought to the genre in the 90s with the heavily comedic Scream was more than a renewed sense of levity. This teen-led movie exhibited a keen understanding of slasher tropes, turning self-referential humor into a cheeky framework from which Craven delivered some of the smartest scares ever. Sure, Scream Queen Neve Campbell rules and Ghostface is a decent villain, but more than anything, it's Scream's script that kills. Paranormal Activity. Paranormal Activity is far from the first found footage film to hit the market, what with Blair Witch popularizing the subgenre just a few years before. What makes writer-director Oren Peli's demonic flick worthy of an essential horror list, though, is the unique approach it took to pulling off practical effects in a modern found footage context. Where later films like Unfriended and Host greeted audiences with digital interfaces and chat rooms, Paranormal Activity presents as something akin to crime scene footage. Here, the director made a habit of prioritizing authenticity over all else, and the fear followed.
Sink into the floor.
Wait.
Sink.
Get Out. Writer, director, actor Jordan Peele claimed his horror auteur status with Get Out. This ruthless satire on white privilege and black disenfranchisement shook audiences to their cores, sometimes from screaming and sometimes from laughing. It's a wild ride that earned 4 Oscar nominations and a win for Peele's original screenplay. Academy Award nominee Daniel Kaluuya stars as a young black man invited to go to his white girlfriend's parents' isolated house for the weekend. All seems well, at least in the typical, well, these people are awful but sufferable kind of way, but that soon bows to a hellish descent into self-congratulatory white elitism and a little something else. Good luck. That's all for this hair-raising history lesson. To check out our full Essential Horror Movies History Guide, which has a whopping 31 titles, head over to Mashable.com. Happy haunting!